So you went out and bought the Eco game. You found a server that you seen would fit you. You logged into the game, and you find yourself just standing in the woods. What do you do next? When you first start out in the game, quite literally, the only thing you have is this tent that you have in your inventory. Now, everything that you need to survive is inside of that tent. It's got a pickaxe, it's got a shovel, it's got all the things that you need. It's even got a little small workbench inside of it to be able to make other things. So it contains everything you need to start, but you need a place to put it down. Now, there's two ways that people go about doing this. Some folks will just put down the tent, the first open spot they see, take out their tools, and then collapse the tent back and take off. That's perfectly fine. It will go ahead and put down several land claims that you're going to want to reclaim and put sort of back in your backpack to take with you as well, but getting your tools out initially is fine. A lot of people do that, and even I do that. But what you can do instead is just start looking around for the first good place where you'd like to live. You can press M to open a map and see where you are and see the topography around you. There's also a little mini map in the bottom right-hand corner that shows you where you are as well. But the bigger map is kind of handy to get oriented. Now, I'm doing this as the first day of a playthrough of the game. So I've already decided what I want to do, what my career will be, sort of the first skills that I want to have. And for me, I want to do the pottery, which allows me to make bricks and other things out of clay and some raw rock materials. That means I want to be here in the jungle, where there's an ample supply of clay as well as shale, because you're going to need shale to make bricks as well. You can see the biomes on that same world map by going over to the map layers, clicking the biomes, and then selecting whatever biome you want to see. In this case, it's the jungle. You can see them right here on the edge, and it colors it in. And the color will be more intense, all the way up to a white, the more matching that particular biome is to the surrounding environment. Now, before you go out scouting for a location and running around the world, you need some food. Nothing is worse than running out of food and running out of energy. It prevents you from being able to run. It prevents you from being able to use your tools. You have to have food. So the best thing to do is to just look around and pick some raw foods that you're going to find in the world. There's tomatoes and corn and papaya. There's all kinds of things that you can just pick and directly eat. Now, it's not the best food, and you're going to want to start cooking your food as soon as possible, but initially, at the very beginning, it's okay to just eat these raw foods to get some energy. So after running around the map a bit, I picked this location, and I said that I wanted to do pottery, but it is a second tier kind of skill. There's a couple things that lead up to that. And one of the things that I would really like to have is masonry. It allows me to make mortar, and it allows me to make mortared stone for some primitive type buildings. I could build things out of wood, and I probably am going to start building things out of wood because it's the easiest thing to acquire, but masonry is really going to be the thing that I want. So I picked this area because it's also close to the grasslands, and the grasslands are going to provide me a little more variety of stone. There's going to be shale here in the jungle, but over in the grasslands, I'm going to find limestone, and I'm going to find some sandstone, probably mixed in all around there. Hopefully, I will also find some coal, because as I'm going to be making those bricks, I'm going to be using a kiln, and it does burn up a lot of fuel, and coal is a good fuel to be able to use in your kiln. There's another strategic reason for this place, and that's because it's on the beach itself, and the beach has sand. Sand is going to be really important for making that mortar. Now, in 9.0, this version of Eco, they changed the way mortar was created. It used to be that you could just take sandstone and with the masonry skill, grind it up and make sand. But that's not the case anymore. It now requires other skills to be able to get sand if it's not already available in like native sand form. if you were to take sandstone, you have to take it to a miner, someone with the mining skill who can crush that sandstone into, I guess, little fine powder, little fine granules. And then the miner also has to run it through a sluice box, a kind of separator, to give you this more concentrated kind of sand material. It has a silica tag to it that can then be turned into the sand that you want. So it has to go through a several step process now to get sand. I want to be able to have some sand at least available right away. So being on the beach, I'll just be able to start digging in the beach and get my sand that I can use for my mortar. Now that I've selected my location and I've thrown my tent out and everything, there's a couple things inside of my tent. One of those is a workbench. And one of the first things I like to create with the workbench is a tool bench. This will allow me to repair my tools, because all you're sort of starting out with is wood tools and stone knives and bear skins.
You're asking me to work with equipment which is hardly very far ahead of stone knives and bearskin.
The other thing that you want to create right away is a campfire. There's a little bit of food also in this tent. So if you haven't already gathered some food, the first thing you can do is start cooking this food. Now, it's pretty primitive food. It's all charred food, basically burnt food that you have to eat, but it's better than the raw food. So cook it, burn it, eat it. That's what you should do. Once you get that sort of beginner provided food cooking, it's not going to last that long, so go out and gather some more. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of the food and the balancing and the way to do that. That's probably a whole separate video, because it gets a little bit complicated about fat and calories and vitamins and all of that. But for right now, you just want to be fed. And if I were to say any advice at all, it would be gather some vegetables, and also with that tool bench, make yourself a bow and some arrows, and go try to get some animals and make some charred meat. A combination of charred meat with almost any kind of vegetable will give you a reasonable balance of food for getting skill points and leveling yourself up. So with some food gathered and happily cooking on the fire, getting myself a little backlog of some nutrition here, I'm gonna get some logs. I'm going to be building my first building out of logs. There are lots of trees here, and it's going to prevent me from having to do a lot of digging and mining to try to get enough stone to be able to build a stone house. So I'm going to build my first one out of logs. Different types of biomes give you different types of trees, which in turn give you different types of logs. But that's not too important just for building your first house. And so I'm not going to be too particular, but I am going to try to stick with hardwood logs, which is going to be these sort of grayish ceiba trees, and there's also some oaks not too far from here over in the grasslands. I'm going to preserve these palm trees here, which are a softwood tree. I'm going to preserve those for using for the campfire and things like that. I should say one more thing about location. This place that I selected is not too far away, yet not too close to the rest of the other players. I wanted to give myself a little bit of space to expand and grow and not bump into other players. But this is a cooperative game, and you're going to find yourself wanting materials, wanting goods from other players. Not only to be able to buy from them, but you're going to want to sell your products to them so that you can get money to buy their things. So it's good not to be too terribly far. I can run or swim across this waterway and get to the main cluster where most of the people have settled. But like I said, I've got a little space around me as well. As a future project, I'll just build a bridge and a road to be able to get to the rest of civilization over there, to be able to easily trade. So this is not too terribly bad for a first day. My location is selected. I've gathered some food and I've got that cooking on the fire. Got a little small backlog of logs here going on that I can use to feed my campfire and to start with some initial building. So next time, we're going to be using this area out behind the tent to build our first house. And that's all happening on this DadSpeed server. It's one of the best server groups in Eco that I found to work with. They're highly cooperative, very good players, and have a high focus on economics within the game. So they know how to exchange money. It's got government-run programs, all kinds of things going on. This is a really great group. And you don't need to feel like you're in a rush here. You're not in a competition with other players in this server. It is truly cooperative. You can just slow play it, play casual, play when you can. I've had players join even a couple months into an existing server that they've set up, and they still feel fully productive and contributory to the community in the planet here as a whole. So this is a really great server, so I don't need to rush this at all. I hope you want to follow the rest of this build out and tutorial. Like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll be talking to you later.